Know when an attorney just ticks you off? They just don't get it sometimes. They show no respect. In fact, they go out of the way to paint you, the claims adjuster, as a villain. Well, today's episode will discuss why that type of behavior is counterproductive to the entire process of case resolution. By the end of the episode, we're going to create a relationship between the adjuster and the attorneys, and it will be something that you will always want to do. Avoid a good relationship with the parties that you're working with on your case at your own peril and the peril of your client, that person whose interests you're supposed to protect. See, relationships work both ways. Together, and today, we will look at relationship building from the perspective of the adjuster and how it will affect the resolution, which, of course, is the ultimate goal of your case. So you want to reduce your caseload, save costs, impress those that need to be impressed, and make happy clients and a happier and healthier you, which is easy. Listen, like, subscribe, and share, because the more we reach the players in this industry, the better all our lives will become. We are inextricably interconnected, for better or for worse. Let's make it for the better together. Don't tick off the adjuster needlessly. What if the claim professional, the adjuster, or the defense attorney was not your enemy? What if the claim professional, the adjuster, or defense attorney was viewed as a helper and not a herder? What if it was to your benefit as a plaintiff attorney to educate and present the role of as a helper to get the correct result? No more and no less. It's no secret that many attorneys use the adjuster as the personification of evil itself to their clients. Maybe they think they need a foe to focus their client on. Let me give you an example. There is a poker game called Helpers and Herders. It's the kind of game you would play maybe with your friends around a table on Monday night, poker night kind of thing. Each player in the game of Helpers or Herders is dealt a hand of 4 cards. Then a row of cards is laid out, and each card is turned over with a round of betting and is designated as a helper or a herder. Bets are made. The game ends with the best poker hand made. What is interesting about the game to me is that it makes you realize that a card that hurts someone can be a big help to others. Likewise, in claims work, you hold the cards that relate to your case, and what happens in the game between the parties can be helpful or hurtful to your end game. Each and every action made during the course of the relationship can be a helper or a herder. But here's a hard fact to this whole thing. In claims work and in personal injury work, it's not a game. The results have real-life consequences. Real people are affected by the outcome of your actions. How you play your hand will determine if your actions are helpful or hurtful, not only to you and your client, but to the relationship that you need to build, not just to survive, but to proliferate in this beast of a business. Just take note at some of the recent advertising by plaintiffs' attorneys. You can't go up and down I-95 from New York to Florida without seeing an incredible amount of plaintiffs' attorney signs, advertising and lights, many of them, like Las Vegas-style signs, lighting up the highways. I always found it ironic that the most distracting signs you ever see on a highway are those placed by plaintiffs' attorneys who are dealing with accident cases. It's crazy, right? All right. They announce huge settlements. Words like winning, beating, crushing are routinely used. Just how does that benefit the industry? Talk about looking to kill the goose that laid the golden egg. This approach totally destroys the relationships that need to be built to adequately and really represent your clients in the right way. So you can look of plaintiffs' attorneys. They are filled with war stories and warlike words and images that create a you against them mentality. They create the idea that the insurance company and the adjuster are the enemy, only out to screw you every chance they get. Hey, Mr. Plaintiff Lawyer, isn't this just a little disingenuous? Don't you really need to have a working relationship with the claims professional? Doesn't that benefit your client more? And isn't it true that more times than not, you're going to have a civil conversation with the same adjuster that on your website you're claiming is some sort of a beast? More precisely, Doesn't that benefit more of your clients to have a good relationship with the adjuster? Consider this. What if you're hurting your client more by creating distrust? What if the adjuster was not an obstacle to a fair and just recovery for the plaintiff, but rather viewed as a protector of the purse strings, a person who wants to do a fair job and pay what is owed, no more and no less? We all know that there is a certain persona each attorney has and uses when he deals with a client. And then there is the persona that you have with claims people. There's also the persona that you might have at home and the persona you might have with friends. It's like a carry type thing, 11 personalities. But what if you could use the same persona all the time? Wouldn't your life be less complicated, easier to resolve cases? Wouldn't it be respectful, and wouldn't you command respect if you give respect? You could still try the cases that need to be tried, or deal with the recalcitrant lawyer or adjuster that just doesn't see things in life your way and sees things a little different. Maybe he wants to be combative all the time. But what if 98% of the time, creating a working relationship between the adjuster and the attorney produced the best result, not only for your client, but for you? Wouldn't that make your life easier and your work life more fulfilling? Let me tell you the answer to that. It's yes. Today, we will provide you some provoking and information that will help you get to yes. So who the heck am I? Well, I'm your host, obviously, Tony Mascolo. I am an attorney and a mediator for the New York court system. And as I've said before, I am a recovering personal injury litigator, recovering from the daily grind of too many cases, demanding clients, uncertain results, increasing costs, meeting deadlines, and all the other obstacles of personal injury work. In other words, I've lived your life. Together, we will learn methods to manage this beast of work and reduce caseloads, provide certainty of outcome, develop relationships that sustain continued resolution. This will give us power over our lives and provide joy in all our relationships, both in and out of court. Little secret, they call me the mediation whisperer. This podcast will hopefully get in your ear. Let its truths sink in. And by the way, if you enjoy this episode, at the end, kindly leave a 5-star review or share the episode with a colleague in the industry or that lawyer or adjuster that is driving you crazy or you just want to work better with. You can even book a call with me and we can get into more details on how to do this. And it'll be free and quick. My favorite words apply here. Like, share, subscribe, and consult. This will help my message reach out. So we've been talking about helpers and herders in relation to our lives and in relation to your business. We talked about a game of cards, a risk game where called helpers and herders, where the players are required to take a certain amount of risk. And I mention that only because we are all in what we would call the risk management business. Do you want to be a helper or a herder in regard to your clients, in regard to the people that you represent, in regard to the bosses that you work for? I'd venture to say that you want to be a helper and not a herder. So is it hard to understand that your counterpart also wants to be a helper and not a herder? So you need to recognize that your counterpart, your adversary, whether it be an attorney or an adjuster or another claims person, you need to recognize that they are important to your case closure and you need to treat them as your peers. You need to see them as helpers and not herders. And then you need to pave a path where they can actually be helpers to you. And there can be a lot of ways to do that, but one of the ways to do that is to be a helper yourself. So I wanted to focus on adjusters for this particular segment here, because adjusters carry larger caseloads than the attorneys, and they aren't nearly as rewarded enough as the attorneys are, in my opinion, for doing the work for their companies. In other words, they're not appreciated enough by their companies. And I hear this time and time again. Now, listen, truth be told, there are attorneys who complain about that too. But for a large percentage, they're making more money, they're working less hours, and there is a system devised for, let's say, a Christmas bonus or something along those lines. That is not always true on the adjuster end of the business. And I don't know how many adjusters you know. how many adjusters you've talked to over the years, but you can imagine that since I preach that as something that we should be doing, well, I actually do it. Just making sure my microphone is working. We'll edit this out later. So I know an adjuster who tells a lot of stories about business that she's in, a lot of stories about her personal life, and she intertwines them with what's going on in her work life. And she told the story of a colleague who was awarded a very prestigious insurance award. It was an award where she was recognized as a top casualty adjuster from her insurance carrier employer. Big deal, right? She was recognized as the best casualty insurance adjuster in their company. So you want to guess what her bonus was? You want to guess what she received as a result of this wonderful thing, this wonderful award? Well, the person who was telling us the story said, don't bother. You know why? She got nothing. No award, no plaque, no lunch, nothing, nada. So it leads you to ask the question, what's wrong with this picture? Well, I would venture to say the company doesn't really understand the value of an award like that. It's great to get it, but to just award it with nothing else, in effect, renders it meaningless. And this is pretty much true of the entire insurance industry. Again, based upon a lot of interviews and discussions that I have had with adjusters and defense professionals. Not a pretty picture at times. And that leaves a totally unsatisfied and underappreciated insurance company employee. And by way of example, just to show you some contrast, I worked at a law firm early in my career that would bonus me as an attorney for a good resolution to a case, even if it happened just on a conference. In fact, they bonused me more if I did it earlier on in the case. Now, I was the person going to court, so I wasn't working the cases up and then speaking to the adjusters. Now, I got the case when it was in litigation, and then it was on for the first time, second time, third time. I did the depositions. I did that end of the cases. But once I realized that closed cases were the goal, and that was made clear to me, and that satisfied clients was another goal, and that relationship building was considered important by this firm, well, I was extremely encouraged that I would do very well at this firm, and I did. So I took to this, every case was an opportunity for me to earn a bonus. And I still remember those days, fondly. I practiced the heck out of those cases. I worked the heck out of those cases. I settled a ton of those cases early on in the litigation process. And every time I did that, I was rewarded. I didn't have to wait for the big reward at the end of the year, a raise or something along those lines. I not only got a pat on the back, but I got an instant bonus in my paycheck that week. It wasn't oftentimes a lot of money. It may have been $100. It could have been a few $100s, but it was an instant reward. And that made me want to work even more and settle more cases. I did the same thing when I opened up my own practice. I was generous in my rewards to my employees. They earned bonuses when they did a good job in court, and I made them know that it was a good job that they did. Now, understanding that this lack of recognition exists at a particular job, well, this should give you an incentive to fill that vacuum with the relationship that you create with the adjuster. I'm not talking about giving the adjuster money, giving the adjuster anything. I'm talking about only giving the adjuster respect and the knowledge that they did a good job. You see, adjusters aren't immune from being told that they did a good job. They're not immune from their boss saying to them, hey, someone else told me you did a good job. Someone that didn't have to say that. So when you settle a case with the adjuster, let them know you appreciate the work they did. In today's world, you can do that pretty easily. You can share a note with the supervisor. You can make a phone call and leave a voice message. You can send an email. It's so easy, or a text. And just say simply, your adjuster was on top of things, did a great job. I'm happy that we were able to resolve the case, and I look forward to working with that adjuster again. You see, this costs you nothing, and it establishes your appreciation for the hard work and the closed case. You can bet that it will help fast track the next case you have together. You see, the ego of a lot of attorneys and other claims professionals in our business prevents them from being kind and acknowledging good work. I'm not telling you to be dishonest. I'm telling you to be honest when a good work is done and to realize that that honesty can help you move along more cases. So we said that this can help you fast track the next case. Yes, the next case. Have you not figured out the repetitive nature of our PI business? From the major carriers to the usual adjusters to the same claims supervisors on every case to the same defense firms to the same courts and to the same judges. You see, it's a carousel. It's not a linear relationship. In this business, what goes around actually does come around, and you need to hop on that carousel. Now, the second thing that adjusters tell me all the time that they wish was different, that would help make their life easier and make them want to settle more cases and actually resolve more cases, is that if they received timely reports from their attorneys and claim numbers in the subject line of every contact that they have had with either their own attorneys or their adversaries on the case, even co-defendants. These are just easy things, you know. And time again, justices tell me that there are two things that if attorneys did on a regular basis, adjusters would put their cases at the top of the work pile. They're easy things, like, get a timely report to them. And, that's a drum roll, put the claim number at the top of the letter in the subject line of the email and on every other communication that you have with the adjuster, either oral or written. And even if you're sending them just photographs or documents of any kind, put the claim number up in the corner. It is documented by the adjusters how much time is wasted just because there's no index number attached. I have been told by adjusters that if an email comes in without the claim number in the subject line, they don't even look at that email to the end of the day. They go directly to the ones with the claim number in the subject line. So what does that tell you? Be smart. Don't waste the time of the adjuster. Be like the grandmother who visits their grandchild. The grandchild can't wait till grandma comes because in her pocketbook, she's got all kinds of sweets and gum and candy and all those kind of things. Grandma is always welcome. Grandma goes to the top of the list. She gets the hugs, the smiles, the kisses. And only in this case, well, maybe you should tattoo the claim on your forehead. Okay, and maybe that's the answer. And the adjuster, of course, will just do the rest at that point. And as for reports, I'll only say that brevity is considered godly in an adjuster's life. No purple prose. There's no need for extensive footnotes, cites, cases. They know you're a lawyer. They know you're smart. They know you got through law school. You know what an adjuster wants? They want the facts. Remember that show years ago on TV called Dragnet? The guy would say things like, just the facts, ma'am. And that's what adjusters want. They just want the facts. They don't care how wonderful your writing skills are. They could care less how exciting and how wonderful and brilliant the argument is. Here's what they want. They want a brief, succinct summary of the major points. They don't want you to offer your opinions unless they've asked for them, of course. Just be ready to do what the adjuster asks you to do. And unless there's something that's totally out of whack that the adjuster needs to know that they wouldn't otherwise know, well, just be a helper. And then guess what? The adjuster will be a helper to you. The last thing I wanted to mention in terms of adjusters is that it's no different. This is where attorneys and adjusters, really, their interests coincide. Adjusters hate open files. Just a truism in this world. Attorneys hate open files. Everybody wants to close. So therefore, to be on the same page, it just means you need to recognize that everyone wants to close a case. So these truisms are, okay, listen, let me guess. Oh, the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. The chemical makeup of H2O, water is H2O. I'm a truism. Bisquick makes the best pancake. Well, how about this one in an Italian family? Mom's meatballs are the best in the world. So one of the truisms in the adjuster business is adjusters hate open cases. And there is nothing good about an open case to an adjuster. You know what it is? It's an open wound just waiting to fester, waiting to be infected and to blow up into something unmanageable. Closing it quickly while it's only a small wound, is the goal. Trust me, no adjuster wants to get into the heavy litigation stage with mounds and mounds of discovery. That just creates tons of work. Litigation, depositions, authorization exchanges, medical reviews, experts, cha-ching, cha-ching. It's a major infusion of time and money. Many, many calls to adjusters, to bosses, to supervisors, many calls from the client. Oh my goodness, many reports to be done. More of everything. More, more, more. We don't want more in this business. So trust me, adjusters hate open cases, and you need to use that hatred of the open case in every interaction that you have, every discussion that you have, every piece of paper that you exchange with the adjuster. And by the way, even early on, before you're even ready for it, you should be asking the adjuster, hey, what's your opinion on the resolution of this case? The adjuster might say, oh, we haven't roundtabled yet. Say, I'm not interested in their opinion. I'm interested in your opinion. You've been around a long time. I know you settled a lot of cases. I know you've tried a lot of cases. I know you have a lot of experience. This is you and I talking. Let's resolve this case. We don't need anyone else deciding it for us. We're the experts. We know. By the way, what you discuss with the adjuster and what you tell him your position is and what you kind of share with him and then have him develop his position, that's likely what's going to go in his report when he puts it in or she puts it in to the round table, to the supervisor to get money on the case to help you resolve it. So by doing this with the adjuster, you are showing the adjuster you appreciate their work, you appreciate their intellect, and you have a desire to get on the same page. That equality is very important. And by the way, this should be done whether you're on the same side, either side of the V in this case. In other words, the adjuster should know you value closed cases as much as he or she does. Now listen, you might not agree on the value of the case, but there are things that you can always agree on. For example, having a closed case. There's no question that we can agree on we want to close the case out. You can find other things too in a case, such as a hit in the rear and things like that, where there'll be no liability issue. And I always make a point of finding the things that we don't need to disagree on, that are, irrefutable, and posing them as something that we both know. It kind of sets a good groundwork. So even though you might not agree on value, you should find things that lead you to closing, because closing is good. I'm going to make a reference to an old time movie. That alone, that reference to closing cases, well, that can be the start of a beautiful relationship.